Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. What the slump yesterday is. The slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you for Bettor Off Dead Wednesday. I never remember what day it is, man. Everything's a blur. Wednesday, November 5th. Yeah. Oh, well, we got to remember the 5th of November. It's Guy Fawkes Day, baby. So you can, I don't know. I can't say anything about that day. Go watch V for Vendetta today or whatever. I'm watching the Beetlejuice sequel on Netflix before it's gone from Netflix. So that's what I'm doing, which I actually haven't seen it yet. So I'm like more than halfway through it. It's good. I think, dude, there's a lot of unoriginality now in Hollywood, which kind of angers me. But some of these movies can still hit. It feels like everything's a sequel, everything's a remake. A lot of these things are unnecessary, but that one, I mean, not that bad. Some of it's pretty funny. Michael Keaton is still exactly what you expect as Beetlejuice. I mean, he's the main guy, so yeah. We did well on the show yesterday, 3-1. The play that I added late, Philadelphia Flyers, we got a win on that one. A nice underdog win. They were winning the game 3-0, and then they blew the entire lead, and they were actually losing 4-3. They tied it, and then they wound up winning in overtime. I mean, any game that goes that way and you have an underdog, like especially at that price, plus 138 or whatever, I'm pretty sure it's the right side. You can go look at the stats. I think they had more shots, although it seemed like they didn't really win the other statistics. But you give yourself a good chance of winning as an underdog like that. I think it's the right side. So we got the win on that. Carolina Hurricanes was easy. They won easily against the Rangers. I think it might have been 3-0 or something. I don't know. I didn't check what the final was, but I'm pretty sure they were just running away with it or skating away with it. We lost on the New York Islanders, but at least that means the Bruins won. I think the Islanders slightly outstatted the Bruins in that game. It was kind of a close game, back and forth. Islanders had some chances to win. Well, I gave out Islanders in regulation. It went into overtime. So if you play it in regulation, as soon as it goes into overtime, it's a loss anyway, so what can you do? But the Bruins, at that point, I'm like, go Bruins, because then I don't feel as bad, because like the full game bets would lose as well, so it didn't matter like how I gave it out. And I'm a fan of the Bruins, so I'm like, okay, at that point, just let the Bruins win, which they did, so that was a loser on the show. Can't win them all, man. And then easy win on the NBA game last night, the Toronto Raptors. NBA continues to be quite good for me for the most part, as expected, because it is my best betting sport. But easy win with Toronto yesterday, so that was good. I think they won by about 18 points. It was pretty much never in doubt. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. You're in California. Wait, oh yeah, dude, California. I forgot about that. California's the worst of everything, dude. They're like basically a communist state. Well, I mean, they're a leftist progressive state, but you expect the progressive states to at least have betting, like Massachusetts does, New York does. Like a lot of the states that don't allow it are the more conservative states, but California is the worst of everything, and they don't allow betting either. It's insane. You could go, you could do some offshore betting though. Or depending on where you were in California, you could have driven to Las Vegas. That's what people do in California. If they're in Southern California, they drive like a couple hours to Las Vegas to make bets for a little bit. Or just wherever you are in California, if you can just cross the border into Nevada, then you can make bets, I'm pretty sure. I don't know how close you were to the border. No, yeah, California has nothing. The best states as far as betting are, like, the most books that you can get are Colorado has a ton. Illinois, I believe, has a lot. You're in Colorado, right? So you have probably the best. You have probably the most books available. I think probably there are, like about a dozen in Colorado, maybe? I don't know. I haven't I don't think I've done any betting in Colorado. I've been to Colorado, but I don't think I was doing any betting when I was there. Yeah. You're in San Fran, so you could take a quick flight to Reno. You can get from San Fran to Reno on a plane in like under an hour. I've done it before. Well, I've done the reverse. I went from Reno to San Francisco on the way back from the Libertarian Convention. And then San Francisco decided to change my flight from one end, because San Francisco's airport is like a 5-pointed star, basically. Not 6. That would be a lot worse. No, but my gate was supposed, because I was flying a red eye back to Boston, and there was like, my gate was like down one end. The gate where I landed was like right near where my gate was supposed to be for the red eye flight. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm in the same terminal. My red eye flight is down the end of this one. Then with like 20 minutes to go, they changed my gate to the very end of one of the other points in the star. So I'm like running through the San Francisco airport. I made it, but then my flight wound up being delayed anyway, although I would have made it anyway. But man, that's annoying. Running through the San Francisco airport. I was booking it, man. I only had a backpack because I travel light, but I was able to make it like the longest possible distance through the San Francisco airport or whatever terminal that was. I was able to do it in probably 7 minutes or so. So at least there was that. That wasn't too bad. Jeffrey, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. We can get into today. I mean, there were a few things that I kind of forgot to mention yesterday. Just about college basketball in general. So Duke, was the big game yesterday. Duke did win and cover yesterday. Texas was kind of in that game. Like, they were only down 5 with, I think, several minutes left in the game, but they fell short in the end. I think they lost by 15 or so. One thing that I completely forgot, though, is that Texas has Sean Miller as their coach now. He came over from Xavier. He used to be the coach at Arizona, if people remember that way back in the day. I believe he was the one at Arizona who sweat through his shirt. By the way, let me know how my audio is, because I took my dynamite stick out again. The dynamite stick is really just overkill. So I took that out and I cranked the gain up on my Scarlett again. So let me know if this is all right. But yeah, Sean Miller is the coach at Texas now because they decided to get rid of, don't even remember who their coach was last year, but Miller, I mean, he brought over some of his guys from Xavier, so they're going to probably change their style a little bit. But Texas wasn't really totally out of the realm of playing kind of a similar style anyway. It also seemed like Texas was like always playing Xavier in the tournament. Like, they played in the play-in game, I think, last year, and the year before that they met up in the tournament. So that was interesting. So I forgot about that, and I also forgot Drake. After last year, they brought up Ben McCollum from from Division II, and he brought all his guys up, and they actually did really well just because they had so much chemistry. I think that Drake team basically was like a one-year thing. They're gone. McCollum, I don't know if he took any of his players still with him, but he actually went to Iowa, so that's something to keep in mind. McCollum, I didn't realize what was going on with that. I think Drake will probably continue to play like a slow-down style of game, though, but McCollum went to Iowa, which is very weird because Iowa, under like McCaffrey, Iowa was playing like really, really fast. That's what they were known for, extremely fast tempo. And it's going to be a complete change with Iowa with McCollum there because he's going to slow the pace way down. It's going to be pretty interesting. So just things I was going to point out that I completely forgot about. You're in Delaware? Okay. But yeah, you're from the Philly area, I believe, Jeffrey. So yeah, 4-3 in the NBA. I will say the Bulls, I don't know what number you got on the Bulls, but the only point where the Bulls were ever even leading in that game was literally the final score. Like, Philadelphia completely blew that game. Philadelphia was up, I think, double digits by the end of I think they were up 18 at the end of the first quarter, and they were up 19 at halftime. Philadelphia, there's no way they should have lost that game. It almost seemed like it was rigged. Mr. Pinsey, what's up, man? Thank you. Thanks for hanging out again. Yeah, yesterday it was good, 3-1. I mean, obviously, I'm happy about that. Trying to get back on track here. Every day is a different animal, though. We'll get to today in a second. I don't want to take too long to get into it. I'm going to give out 2 college basketball plays today, so we're going to get into college basketball for the first time. I have 1 NBA play. I do not like the hockey board. It's a small board. And college football, there's more action, and it is ugly, man. So I'm not going to do anything with that. Restore Christendom, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Embiid is a problem. Yeah, I mean, 1.5. So you actually got the win on that because it went off at 2.5. But yeah, like I said, I recommended against the Bulls yesterday. It was not a play for me, but Bulls and Packers. I do like the Packers. That might wind up being a play for me, as I sort of have alluded to over a few recent shows. I agree with the Packers. I did not agree with the Bulls yesterday. All right. College basketball, I mean, we don't have a whole lot that I really want to talk about here, although what I will say is we start getting into situations where now you have some games where you have a team that already has a game under their belt versus a team that's coming in cold, and I can kind of see that going both ways because a lot of times when a team has already played a game, they kind of get that pressure off, and now they're used to it, especially if they won, and it was like not a seriously important game. Now they kind of have like momentum a little bit if it was just like an easy win or something like that. So sometimes the team that already has a game under their belt and it was an easy win, sometimes that's a positive. But I don't necessarily want to fade teams that are like in their home opener or anything like that either. So some different situations, but those don't really factor into the situations that I'm going to be looking at today. We do have one ranked team playing today, which is Creighton, ranked 23rd in the country against South Dakota. I don't have a whole lot to say about that game. Creighton is up to a 29-point favorite. So, I mean, Creighton, they've been a force in the Big East for a while. Now, they're one of the better teams in the Big East still. They haven't played yet, but they do have Gonzaga coming up next, although they have almost a week between now and then. So I don't know if they're really going to look ahead to Gonzaga or not. It is possible that they do. South Dakota, I believe, did already play, but they lost. But yeah, they played against Utah Tech in just a game nobody gave a shit about. So South Dakota does at least have a game under their belt. It was a close game. I think it was a game with a close line, though, too. So I don't know. I just figured I would briefly mention that game. I'm also going to mention Eastern Washington and Loyola Marymount. I'm not going to make a play on this, but I think it's a little bit interesting. Eastern Washington looks like they played UCLA really close. They just went to UCLA 2 days ago, I think, on Monday. Number 12 in the country, UCLA. Eastern Washington came within 6 points of UCLA, so it looks like a spot where maybe you want to fade Eastern Washington coming off of that, and they do actually play another bigger conference team next. They have Colorado up on Saturday, so that's going to be another big game for them. So this does kind of look like a sandwich spot where they have to go to Loyola Marymount. And if you're a team that's somewhat unfamiliar with playing in Loyola Marymount, that's a bit more difficult to do. Eastern Washington's in the Big Sky, so I don't know that they usually go and play at Loyola Marymount, who's in the WCC. So kind of a weird spot for Eastern Washington here. Loyola Marymount put up 137 points in their first game, so that might make them look a little bit too good, although that was against a non-Division I team, Lincoln, California, whatever the hell that is. Eastern Washington, though, if you dig into this box score a little bit, this game was not close. Like, even though it looks like it was, they obviously covered. UCLA was a 29.5-point favorite. So it looks like Eastern Washington, really good performance. Looks like you might want to fade them. By the way, I hate that ESPN now defaults to the win probability chart. It's like, what the fuck? Like, there's nothing to see here. Yeah, UCLA was like above a 90% favorite to win the game the entire time. No, I want to see the game flow. There it is. So Eastern Washington was close early, but then they were losing by a lot, dude. They were losing by almost 20 points later in the game. They were down double digits. So the fact that they cut it to 6 late was like pretty cosmetic. They were still down double digits in the final minute. So it's not like they were really that close to winning against UCLA, but it was still a big game. They still didn't go away. So I would lean to Loyola Marymount in this game, and the money has certainly shown up on them. They're already up from a 7-point favorite to an 8.5-point favorite. 7 is a key number in basketball because teams stop intentionally fouling at that point. I would still lean that way. I would lay the points, probably even at 8.5. I would still do it if I was going to play that game. That one's not going to make my card, although I am going to have 2 other plays. Don't know if there's really anything else that I wanted to talk about as far as today. I don't think there are any other ranked teams playing today. With the Indiana, I mean, they're playing today. They're a solid program. Usually they're just not ranked right now, but they have a very weak opponent in Alabama A&M, so whatever. I don't think there's really anything else totally interesting except for the games that I'm about to give out plays on. King of the Court, I don't even know. Do I know what that is? I'm not even sure what that is. It's something to do with basketball, but hell yeah, you get bonus bets. Hell yeah, just don't let DraftKings, don't let them start limiting. Don't let them limit you, man, because with winning bettors, they might do that. Second in the first week, tie for first in the second week. I don't even really know what that is, really. Like, if I use DraftKings, I'm just using it for, making bets, basically, just single one-off bets. Like, I've used some of their, free bets and stuff, obviously, but other than that, the Magic with Bane, yeah, they picked up Bane. Dude, I think the Orlando Magic is just that they completely changed. They're trying to change their entire personality. I don't think it's Bane specifically. But you go from a team that's a physical defensive team with some really physical guards, big guards, and then you go or big guards / forwards, and then you go no, we're gonna start playing up tempo now. That's a dumb idea. I don't know why they're doing that. Although I think they're starting to play a little bit better. By the way, with Orlando, I did also forget to mention they were playing Atlanta last night, I'm pretty sure. I forgot to mention that Atlanta, I believe, was in an injured player spot because Trae Young got hurt. I mean, what else is new? It seems like he's hurt a lot, but I didn't even realize that was the case when I looked at that game yesterday. So Trae Young is out, so just something to keep in mind. I think he's going to miss a bit of time. Oh, okay, yeah. You picked the player on Tuesday that has the most points plus rebounds plus assists. Gotcha. But who is the Bucks coach now? They got rid of Doc Rivers, right? I don't know. I have no idea. Well, yeah, I mean, the back-to-back was definitely part of the handicap, even though it was the books tried to factor that into the line, although I said it wasn't enough. Everything about that spot was just it's set up really well for Toronto, in my opinion, so I had to make that a play. Live betting college basketball totals. It seems the books early on, especially with the new college basketball landscape, the books seem to, be struggling to kind of catch up to it. Willie Green. Wait, is that the new Bucks coach? I don't even know who that is, to be honest. I don't even know who the Bucks coach is right now. Is that who that is? And they're calling to fire him. The Bucks are off to a good start, though. Well, yeah, the Thunder are the best team in the league. They're really deep. There's no question about that. They have some injuries right now, and it still doesn't even matter. Thunder, yeah. Oh, Willie Green's the Pelicans coach. Yeah, I would not fire him right now. They finally got a win. The Pelicans, they had a really, really brutal schedule to start the season, and Zion Williamson keeps getting hurt. So it's what can you do? Williamson was actually out. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Williamson was out in the first win that the Pelicans got. So it was actually an injured player spot for the Pelicans there. So something I can't keep track of all these NBA injuries. So many guys are in and out of the lineup, and sometimes you don't notice it in the line because the Pelicans are just always a big underdog. So it went kind of unnoticed, but they won that game. So, a white girl went missing from Willie Green's house. I'm going to have to look that up. I'm a true crime aficionado, actually. I've never heard of that case, though. But probably because the media doesn't want you to know about that. In Philly, that is pretty interesting. Dude, I like missing persons cases are like kind of, they're my favorite thing. I know that sounds like morbid or whatever, but I like mystery, and I like trying to like see if I can like grasp it in my mind and try to like figure it out and solve it in my mind. I don't know. It's just the way my mind works. So yeah, I mean, I like that stuff. And just other like unsolved cases. That's kind of my thing. I'm interested in it. All right, let's go to the college basketball plays here. This is already the best bets segment. Fuck it. One of these you're gonna think I'm out of my mind, possibly this first one up. But sometimes in these early season games I do lay gigantic favorites, and that's what I'm going to do here. Georgia minus 31.5, and I believe Georgia might have been one of the teams that I did actually lay a huge number with last year, and I think it maybe was a winner. I don't remember. I think I had Georgia, maybe Florida. I don't know. One of those teams I laid like a huge number with early in the season because the spot was good. I like this one, even though I know if you look at it, it's a low total. I get it. 141.5, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. Holy shit, Georgia's already 33.5. I mean, find the best number that you can on this, man. It was literally 31.5 like a half hour ago. Georgia's already flying up in the market from 30 to 33.5. These college basketball lines, they get out of control real fast, man. You got to try to jump in and get this value. The total's low, yes, which sometimes is going to make it more difficult for a team to cover a number like this. I know that Georgia, if they're winning by a huge margin, there is the risk that they're going to just pack it in and give up some garbage time shit. But Maryland Eastern Shore, I mean, they're in a horrible spot. They're also a terrible team, and they're terrible offensively. They're like one of the 20 worst teams in Division I. They're awful. And part of the reason why the total is so low is because Maryland Eastern Shore is, a slow-paced team, and they can't score. Georgia is kind of a mid-paced team, which KenPom, you can't really read into these numbers too much right now, but KenPom does have Maryland Eastern Shore actually the 11th worst team or 12th worst team in all of Division I, and he has them as the third worst offense in all of Division I so far, and they're a bottom 20 tempo team as well. So they're slow and they don't score, and that's pretty bad. And their defense is also not good. Although defense is their strength relatively. For Georgia, KenPom has them at 36th in the country. He has them at 142nd in tempo right now, and he has them in the top 40 in both offense and defense. But again, very, very small sample size. So KenPom's numbers you can't really read into very much this early. I believe he does not have Georgia winning quite by this amount. I think he has them winning by about 29 or 30, which go pay for KenPom, though. I don't want to give out all of his numbers that you have to pay for here. The numbers here on this main screen you can see for free, but I recommend buying KenPom. I mean, it's very inexpensive. It's it's a yearly cost of $30 or something. And I think it used to be less than 20 too, but whatever. But yeah, Georgia, I mean, I think that even though they're kind of a mid-tempo team, they're sort of in the top half tempo-wise. They're a team that could speed this thing up. So that's not going to be good for Maryland Eastern Shore because they do not want to play at a fast pace. And usually the better team can control the tempo, especially at home, which is what Georgia is here. Maryland Eastern Shore just played Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech is a slower tempo team at 284th in tempo, at least early on in the season. But they are definitely a slower team than Georgia. And because of Maryland Eastern Shore almost pulling off that ridiculous upset, which would have been kind of unimaginable. I think they were about a 28.5 point underdog there. I think you got to fade them here, man. I think they're going to get run out of the building in this one. I mean, they went to Georgia Tech as 28.5 point underdogs, played this just absurdly low scoring game that I talked about yesterday, took Georgia Tech into overtime, so they had to play an extra period as well 2 days ago, almost pulled off this basically unimaginable upset. And now they have to go from that to facing Georgia, which is a step up in class. Georgia, obviously better than Georgia Tech. Georgia is also in a better conference as well. So, although I know this is a new season and whatever, so these teams aren't really battle tested yet, but I think this has hangover spot written all over it, man. It's just a question of whether or not Georgia's going to take their foot off the gas, because this is such a complete mismatch. Georgia should be able to get this thing done. Georgia has already played a game as well, so they're not coming in cold. They had an easy win over Bellarmine in their first game, and they actually did win by enough in this game, too. They were a 23.5-point favorite in this one, and they won. They scored over 100 points. So that's a good sign, because I think Bellarmine usually kind of gets into like slower tempo games, if I'm not mistaken, at least from last year. And Georgia still scored over 100 against them and won by whatever the hell that is. What is that, 45 points? So they were able to cover this number by a decent margin here. So that's a decent sign as well. Yeah, we're going to lay it with Georgia. This is at Athens. Maryland Eastern Shore, they have this back-to-back road slate here in Georgia. You know that the game they got up for was the Georgia Tech game. I mean, there's no question about it. It was the more winnable of the two games at the very least, and they somehow were almost able to do it. And when a team like that that's really, really awful almost pulls off an upset that would almost be unheard of, and then they have to play again, it is a terrible spot for them. Lay the points with Georgia. Hopefully you can get a decent number on this, because that number is getting out of control. And the other play I'm going to give out in college basketball is UC Davis -3, although Ken Baum actually has UC Davis ranked significantly lower than their opponent here, North Dakota State. But I just think this is a spot play. Ken Baum, I mean, again, his numbers mean a little bit less early in the season. I think he actually has UC Davis losing this game outright. So hopefully, because sometimes I don't like to buck Ken Baum, man, like to this extent where I'm going against him by multiple points. But the money's coming in on UC Davis here. They're already up from 1.5 to 3. The number's kind of going through the 3. They have 60% of the tickets, 95% of the cash on them. So I think the real money is also bucking Ken Baum here and going with UC Davis. I like this one. North Dakota State's coming off, I believe, pulling off an upset. Let me see. Why did I like that? Dude, I looked at this like a little while ago. No, they almost pulled off an upset at Oregon State. My mistake. So, yes, they are already on the Pacific Coast, but this is kind of similar to Maryland Eastern Shore, where North Dakota State, they were playing Oregon State, man. Oregon State's still considered to be like one of the big boys, one of the big conference teams, even though they're in the WCC now in basketball. But they're a former Pac-12 team. So I think that's still a big deal for North Dakota State to go and play Oregon State. And they almost pulled off the upset. They were 9.5-point underdogs in Corvallis, and they almost pulled off the upset. Big performance from North Dakota State. And it looks like they lost on like a late layup right at the end of the game, with 2 seconds left. So they almost took this game into overtime. I think North Dakota State's going to be in a bad spot coming off of this, man. Now they have to go face UC Davis, which Davis might be a team that just kind of flying under the radar a little bit. UC Davis did already get a game out of the way. They played a non-Division I team, Menlo, whoever the hell that is. I'm assuming some California team. UC Davis is able to get an easy win in that game, so they have a little bit of momentum coming into this game. This game will be at home, so it's also kind of an unfamiliar spot. These early season games, remember, these teams have to play road games in these stadiums that they're not used to. That's also usually a little bit extra benefit to the home team in cases like that. So, yeah, we'll lay the points with UC Davis in this one. I don't like how it sets up for North Dakota State. Coming off what I think was their big game to open the season, I think they could be in a bit of a hangover spot here. UC Davis, -3. That's how we're starting out the college basketball slate here for the season. All right, NHL. Don't love these games today, man. I don't. I'll try to run through these games. Utah at Toronto. Utah's on a back-to-back. Utah won in overtime yesterday. I think I mentioned I leaned to Utah yesterday. They got the win to kick off the road trip, went into overtime against Buffalo. But they're on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, so not exactly an easy spot for them. They're going to be in a little bit of a fatigue mode. You assume they're going to use Vanacek in net this time instead of Vemelka. Vanacek has actually been okay for them, so I don't think that's really a big downgrade for Utah. Toronto is the more rested team, though. Toronto's coming in here with a record only a little bit above 500. I think Toronto is actually probably better than their record looks. Toronto's got a little bit of momentum here after beating both Pennsylvania teams, Philly and Pittsburgh. Toronto's now staying at home, and they actually do have 1 day off. So the rest spot does set up better for them. I don't know if they're going to use Solars and net again or not. I don't think it matters a great deal for Toronto here. Spot, to me, it almost sets up a little bit better for Toronto. Although you could argue that Utah got a scare yesterday because they almost lost to Buffalo, which Buffalo's not a great team. But I don't know about that, man. I think Toronto's a little bit under the radar. There's a reason why Toronto's favored, even though they have a lesser record than Utah right now. The odds makers are telling you that Utah is actually not as good as Toronto, although the line has dropped from -160 to -150 on Toronto. So the money's actually coming in on Utah, and I don't necessarily agree with that. 60% of the tickets on Toronto, 55% of the cash coming back in on Utah. I have a very slight opinion on Toronto in this game, but certainly don't love it at all, and I would not want to really buck what the market is doing, so I'm staying away. St. Louis at Washington, this is the closest that I would be to a play here, and I actually disagree with the market in this one too, so I don't love disagreeing with the market, man, but I actually lean to Washington in this game. Market is seemingly disagreeing, at least now, although it's early, and again, in hockey, because there's not a lot of public action in hockey, especially with all these other sports going on, you got to take these numbers with a little bit of a grain of salt. Because usually, yes, I'm looking for a big disparity between the cash and the tickets, because where the cash is usually indicative of where the bigger bets are. But I think most of the like percentages that you see here is all professional money almost for hockey, because the public just doesn't get that much involved. So you got to kind of weigh it and like figure out like what's actually going on. Like, how do you read this market here? Although a disparity like this, you got to think it is still actually an indicator that the actual money is coming in on St. Louis. And we see Washington drop from -157 to -148 on the money line. So it looks like there is actual money on St. Louis. 61% of the cash on them, 70% of tickets on Washington. Not surprised that the public is on Washington because of what they did last year. And St. Louis has a bad record right now. So in a way, yeah, you could argue what I argued in St. Louis's last game. You could argue that St. Louis is not as bad as their record looks. I would agree with that argument, but I don't like the spot for St. Louis here. They got that win for us against Edmonton last time out, man. So they pulled that off. They had to come back in the game. They were down 2-0. They came back. They won the game. Big win over Edmonton, man. And now they have to fly out to Washington. I think it could be a little bit of a letdown spot here for St. Louis. Although you could argue that because they ended that long loss streak, remember, I'm the streak buster, streak breaker, baby. And I'm going to try to do it in the NBA today, too. Streak breaker for me and for St. Louis is sometimes when you do break a long loss streak like that, it will actually give you momentum moving forward. So that is at least some positive for St. Louis here. And starting a road trip, usually you are focused. They'll probably try to be focused on Washington because it is Washington. They're known as a pretty good team. They play Buffalo tomorrow, but you got to think if they're going to show up with more effort for one of these games, it's probably going to be the Washington one. The problem is, will they get tired by the end of it? Because two huge effort games in a row, not that easy to do against teams that are both better than St. Louis is. Washington's coming off kind of an ugly loss, and they've had a bunch of days off. They last played on Saturday, and they're also trying to bust their own loss streak. They've lost 4 games in a row, with the worst being their last game, losing in a shootout to Buffalo. To me, it does look like kind of a bounce-back spot here to Washington. They've had a lot of days off, and when you're losing like that, having days off might actually help you fix some things and work on some things and bust that losing momentum a little bit. So I don't agree with the market in this one. I like Washington in this game, but I'm not going to make it a play, although I was actually kind of tempted to do it, but I held myself back on that one. Columbus is at Calgary. In this game, the money is indicating on Calgary. They're up from -102 to -114, 84% of the cash on them, 77% of the tickets on Columbus. Public is not going to want anything to do with Calgary. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in the NHL this year, I'm pretty sure. Their record's bad. As far as how this sets up, though, I don't know, because Columbus just lost a 4-game win streak. And I talk about this, sometimes when you lose a win streak, it does hang you over into the next game, and they do have games that are probably bigger games coming up against Vancouver and Edmonton, which Calgary is a team that is going to get overlooked quite a bit. So Columbus, I might agree with the market in this one because I don't really love the spot that they're in, having their winning momentum stop there. They haven't played since Sunday, so they do have a little bit of rest here, but Don't really love the spot the way it sets up for Columbus. And I think Columbus could be a little bit overvalued right now. They're above 500 right now. They're still a team that I don't think their goaltending is very good. They could definitely score, but it's kind of like last year. I think they're also bad defensively and not very good in the goaltending department. But Columbus is certainly a team that could beat anybody in the league at any given point. I mean, it is the NHL after all. Columbus almost made the playoffs last year, and it wouldn't shock me if they did make the playoffs this year, but that's kind of where they're at. I think they're a mediocre team. Calgary's bad, but Calgary did just end a loss streak of theirs as they beat Philadelphia last time out on Sunday. So that can maybe stop their losing momentum. The problem I have with Calgary is they're returning home from a road trip, and they went to Eastern Canada and then down to Nashville. It wasn't a long road trip, but they've still been away since Tuesday. So it was a 4-game road trip. So they had some rest in the mix in there, but still, it is still a road trip return spot and one of over a week. So I don't want to play Calgary either, man. You know me. I mean, there's almost never a situation where I'm going to be on a team that's returning home from a road trip like that. I'll probably either fade them or pass on the game, even though the spot doesn't look great for Columbus here. You could argue the spot's worse for Calgary here, even though they may have ended their losing momentum. The return home from a road trip is not an easy thing to do. A lot of times you wind up being distracted because you have stuff that needs to get done at home. As I always talk about, that's a real thing. I mean, these guys have families and whatever. Columbus, maybe not a team that's going to completely draw their attention. Although with Calgary, I mean, they can't really overlook anybody with the way they've been playing. But I'm just going to stay away. The market read is saying Calgary. I would actually probably slightly disagree with that one too, just because I think the return home spot is just so bad. But yeah, I don't want to do anything with that game. Blackhawks are playing the Canucks. Chicago at Vancouver. Chicago was hot for a little while, but they've cooled off again. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're playing a 4th game in the middle of this long road trip here. They've had one day off. You could argue that maybe they're in a little bit of bounce back mode. They're going to have Knight back in net here, who was their better goalie because they used Soderblom in their last game. They should be focused on this. I mean, it is Vancouver. Vancouver tends to be a team you get up for. And they're coming off a game against Seattle. It's kind of an ugly loss. Even though Seattle's been off to a decent start, they're a pretty mediocre team, I think. Chicago only has Calgary next. They're not a good team. Although Chicago, yeah, they've definitely cooled off. They've fallen to like a 500 record. Vancouver is also at 500. Vancouver's returning home from a road trip, though, so not a long road trip. They've been off. They've been away since last Thursday. It was a 3-game road trip. Took them to St. Louis, Minnesota, and Nashville. They actually won 2 of the 3 games, both in overtime. Now they're coming back home. I do think the spot is a bit worse for Vancouver here because, again, it is still a return home spot. Not from the longest road trip, but maybe they do overlook Chicago a little bit here. That is possible because Chicago just hasn't been that good recently. The money is coming in at Chicago. I do agree with that one. Vancouver down from -177 to -162 on the money line. 54% of the tickets on Vancouver, 87% of the cash on Chicago. I mean, you could get a little ballsy and maybe take a flyer on the Blackhawks on the money line in this one. I don't mind that idea. I would lean with the market in that one. That's the first of these games where I actually am in alignment with the market, which usually I don't know. I don't know if that's a good sign or not for me, but maybe that means Chicago's one of the stronger plays today because I agree with the market on that one. So when all those things line up, I could see that the situation is not that great for Vancouver. So, yeah, Chicago. Or if you want to do one of those split bets where you make your own, like, +1 puck line, that seems okay as well. I think they have a decent shot at winning that game. Chicago does. And then San Jose at Seattle is the last game on the board. Oh, man. Don't love that one. San Jose, ugly team. They're coming off a couple of big overtime games. They're actually coming off a few huge games in a row. They beat New Jersey. They beat Colorado in overtime. Then they went into overtime with Detroit on Sunday, and they lost in a shootout. Now they have to go up to Seattle for a single-game road trip, and then they come back home. They play Winnipeg, Florida. They could overlook Seattle potentially in this spot, man. I still don't know that Seattle really draws that much attention from teams, so I do think it's a pretty bad spot for San Jose. A couple of days off as well. I don't know if that's really going to help them or not. Seattle just busted a 2-game loss streak by beating Chicago, and they're staying at home. So they do have a little bit of momentum here. Don't know if there's really anything to look ahead to, or that they're really going to be, in a letdown spot or anything like that off the Chicago game. This spot, to me, sets up better for Seattle, so I'm going to disagree with the market again in this game. San Jose has 83% of the cash on them, 57% of the tickets on Seattle. Seattle's dropped from minus 170 to minus 159 on the money line. So, again, I disagree with the market. Don't really understand what's going on here with the market. Slight lean to Seattle for me in that one. Money line a little bit pricey, so maybe a Seattle in regulation play on that one. But although San Jose seems to go into overtime quite a bit, so that's a little bit risky. Of course, I'm not giving out a play on that, but that's just that's an opinion. Let's go to the NBA. First up, we have Philadelphia against Cleveland, and this is one of those misleading lines right away because you have Philadelphia at 5-2, and they've actually been good on the road at 3-1. Cleveland is only 4-3 to start the season, yet Cleveland's up to a 10-point favorite here. So the public's going to look at this, and even though they probably realize Cleveland's the better team still, they're probably going to think this number is really, really high, and they're going to have a tendency to want to take the underdog that has the better record. So I would disagree with it. I would probably lay the points with the Cavs in this one. Sixers, they haven't faced that difficult of a schedule, really, and I think they're not really as good as they look. 63% of the tickets, 59% of the cash on the Sixers. So they're like a public road underdog here, which is usually not what you want. And if you're laying the points of the Cavs, you know that you're at least putting your money on a good team in this case. So that's not a bad thing. Philadelphia is, of course, on a back-to-back. So that's going to probably push the line up on Cleveland a little bit. They're actually playing a 4th game in 6 days, all in different cities. Coming off that close call against Chicago where Philadelphia blew the game when it looked like they were going to beat Chicago all the way yesterday. They had the lead the entire way except for the final score where they gave up a game-winning 3-pointer, I think, with like a couple seconds left. So, yeah, Philadelphia should have won that game, and now they have to turn around and play again right away. Yes, they should be focused on Cleveland, but who's the best team Philadelphia has even played this year? I mean, you could argue that it's the Celtics, even though the Celtics obviously are not a completely intact team here, but maybe you could argue it's the Bulls yesterday, which would kind of put Philadelphia in a bit of a hangover spot-ish, even though I know, yeah, you're going to try to focus for Cleveland, but I don't think Philadelphia's been really that tested yet. Cleveland, I think, has actually faced the more difficult schedule so far. I mean, they faced Boston as well. They faced Detroit, Milwaukee, New York. That's a pretty difficult schedule, a fairly difficult schedule. They beat Atlanta in their last game. Atlanta is an okay team as well, and I think that was before Trae Young got hurt. Cleveland has multiple days off as well. They haven't played since Sunday after breaking that loss streak of the win over Atlanta. You got to think Cleveland is going to show up for this game against Philly, too, because Cleveland only plays Washington next. That Washington game looks like it might be a bit of a sandwich spot with Cleveland up the day after that. But, yeah, I would lean to Cleveland laying the points in this one. I'm not going to play it, but that's the Heartbreaker and Streak Breaker. Yeah, there should be a song. It could be a song. But now all I'm thinking about is another Seinfeld reference with Steinbrenner. Hey kids, what's the name of that song? You remember that song that's out there? Heartbreaker, Love Maker. Whatever. He messes up the lyrics like whatever it is. That's dude, I love that episode. Dude, I love so many Seinfeld episodes. That's the episode where George has Jerry's carpenter build like this whole like area under his desk where he can hide under his desk and nap, and he has all of his stuff under his desk, and George is hiding under his desk while all that's going on, and he can't make noise, can't get found by the kids, doesn't want Steinbrenner to realize he's slacking off on the job. That episode is, dude, I love that episode. And meanwhile, Jerry has issues with that same carpenter or contractor, whatever he is, because the contractor is completely indecisive and he doesn't know what to do. And then he remodels Jerry's kitchen and he makes it just totally awful and like basically like walls off like the kitchen area from the rest of the like living space. Oh man, yeah, that episode's good. That's kind of an under the radar episode. Yahoo with money on San Jose, so showing with the pregame screen is also showing. I just don't agree with the situation in that one. Nets Pacers is going to actually be my play, so I'm going to skip that for a second. Some of these other games, I mean, Boston, just really briefly, I mean, Boston's a huge favorite against Washington, 11.5. What I would say is that the Celtics just lost as a double-digit favorite at home to Utah. So you got to think it's going to be a bounce-back spot where the Celtics will show up. So I would actually lean to the Celtics here, but the money's coming in against them. They're down from 12 to 11.5. 62% of tickets, only 53% on the cash on them. I don't love what I see in the market there. I don't really necessarily agree with that. I just don't necessarily see the Celtics playing really poorly in back-to-back games. The Celtics, one thing they were known for, like throughout the Joe Mazzulla era here, one thing the Celtics do well is bounce back from a really disgusting, ugly loss. The Celtics are good at making adjustments and playing better in the next game, so that is something to keep in mind. Utah is at Detroit. Detroit's a huge favorite as well. The money's coming in on Utah with Detroit up to a 9.5-point favorite, 54% of the tickets and 80% of the cash, though, on Utah. I mean, the odds makers are telling you that Utah's still not a very good team. They're still kind of a bottom-tier team here with the fact that they're this big of an underdog. Utah just beat Boston, so I would probably lay the points with Detroit in this one. I mean, Utah's playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, all of them in different cities. Coming off an upset of Boston in Boston, a double-digit upset, you got to think it's somewhat of a hangover spot. So I was actually pretty tempted to play Detroit in this game. Detroit came back from that win over Dallas in Mexico City, and they came back and actually still played well at Memphis. Although you could argue this is now kind of a return home spot because they've been away since before Saturday when they had to go down to Mexico City, so a little bit of a return home spot. So I do have a little bit of a hesitation there where maybe they have to get back to home life, whatever. Will they really overlook Utah, though, when their next opponent up is Brooklyn? I'm going to say probably not, so I disagree with the market in that one as well. I'm disagreeing with the market a lot today, man. We'll see how those opinions go. I would lay the points with Detroit, though. I just don't see how you could be on Utah again after they pulled off that upset over Boston. Sixers coach, what did he do? What did he do last night? I mean, the Sixers fucked up in a lot of ways, I think, last night. We have an ESPN doubleheader tonight in the NBA as well. These games are good games. Minnesota at the Knicks is the first game on ESPN. Minnesota, they're just kind of rolling into this game off of a couple of easy wins over Charlotte and Brooklyn. So I don't think they're in a bad spot. I think they will show up for this game. This is also an interesting one because this is another rematch between the two teams that traded, right? Because this is Karl Anthony Towns versus Julius Randle. They got traded, although that was a while ago. Now, that was before last year. So these teams played after that, like last year. So I think it's a little bit less of a thing, but it is still those teams playing against each other, so it's a bit of a rivalry-ish just because of that trade. The Knicks are coming off an easy win as well over Washington, which I thought might be a letdown spot. They were in a back-to-back after beating Chicago, and they still did not suffer a letdown. They got the win over this very bad Washington team, so both teams should show up focused for this game. And when that's the case, I usually tend to lean towards the team that I think is the better team when you expect both teams to show up and play well, and that would be the Knicks, although the Knicks have actually dropped a little bit from 4.5 to 3.5 with juice, but it looks like they're getting the cash percentage, 62% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on the Knicks. Yeah, and again, in a game like that where I think the public's going to look at it and think it's a kind of a close matchup, both teams are 4-3, the public might have a tendency to want to take the points, thinking, oh, it's a close game, let's take whatever points we can get. I would lean against that a little bit, and I would probably lay it with the Knicks. The Knicks are 4-0 at home. They've been way better at home. Like, they've had a huge home-road dichotomy, although Minnesota's actually been really good on the road, too, at 3-1. But the Knicks, literally all of the Knicks' losses are on the road, and all of their wins are at home. So they've had a pretty extreme dichotomy. Houston is at Memphis, also a pretty good game here. Houston, coming off beating Dallas, that was a pretty big win. I mean, they beat Boston, and then they beat Dallas right after that. It is still like an in-state type of rivalry game, even though you could argue that, well, Houston was a big favorite and they didn't cover. Yeah, that's also true, but I think it is a big win over Dallas. Now they got Memphis in here, and up next they do have San Antonio, so it actually makes this game kind of a Texas sandwich. It's like a barbecue brisket sandwich here, so it is possible they kind of overlooked this roller coaster of a Memphis team who's below 500 here. Memphis they just don't have any continuity, man, because John Morant keeps like fucking with their team chemistry. I mean, he's not a good player for team chemistry. He did play in their last game. He was suspended. He came back, whatever. I think they didn't play well in that game. They lost to Detroit, although Detroit's a decent team. But Memphis, I do think they're a little bit better than their record looks, though, when they're actually playing the way that they have the ability to play, when Morant isn't like fucking with their chemistry. Memphis, 3-game loss streak here, man. I would probably look to take the points with Memphis in this one. I think it is a bit of a Texas sandwich for Houston. Might be a spot where maybe they overlook Memphis. Memphis, I believe, got Morant back from his suspension in the last game. So that was the game where they had to get the chemistry back again and whatever, and they didn't play well. So I think they might bounce back from that and play a little bit better here, although they are playing a 3rd game in 4 days. They're playing a 4th game in 6 days, and actually a 5th game in 8 days, and a 6th game in 10 days, with the first couple of them being on the road. But they are back home for the first time, back home for 2 games in a row for the first time since the beginning of the season. So I would probably lean towards taking the points with the Grizzlies in this one. And the market seems to agree with that. The number is actually up from 6.5 to 7.5, with the Rockets being a pretty big road favorite. 68% of the tickets on them, but 62% of the cash coming back in on the Grizzlies. It seems like a big line on Houston. Looking at the injury situation, there isn't a whole lot. I mean, Zach Edey, I don't think Edey has played yet this season, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know, man. So, yeah, I don't believe he's played yet. Right, correct. He has not played yet. He hasn't played since the playoffs last year. So Edey hasn't been there all season, so that's not going to really be a factor in this game, other than the fact that it's already factored into the line. So, yeah, something to keep in mind there. So I don't think the line is that big because of that. I think Grizzlies might be getting a little bit undervalued there. Is Brooklyn tanking? No. I mean, Brooklyn was in that game against the Sixers where I gave out Brooklyn as a play in that game. Brooklyn was, like, right there in that game until the 4th quarter. Like, into the 4th quarter, Brooklyn was within, like, 3 or 4 points in that game, I'm pretty sure. No, I don't think they're tanking. They're just bad. I mean, tanking is not a thing early in the season. And these guys, they're professional athletes. They're not going to go out there and just intentionally lose a game like 7 games into the season. There's no way. Like, you still have pride, especially when you're a team that doesn't even have a win yet. I mean, that's pretty embarrassing, but I'm going to talk about that when I talk about the Brooklyn game, which you probably know what my play is in that game already based on what I just said there. But no, and the NBA has the draft lottery, too, so tanking is not as much of a thing in the NBA as it is in football, especially because football has so few games. You can really just tank your way to a better draft pick in football. It's not as much of a thing in the NBA, man, and the lottery kind of mitigates it a little bit because you're not guaranteed to get that first pick. All right. We have, what are the other games I haven't talked about yet? New Orleans is at Dallas. I'm going to hit every one of these games. We only have college football left, so that's not too bad. Dallas, coming off that game where they played fairly well against Houston. They covered. I believe Jeffrey got a win on that one. I kind of disagreed with it, but Houston never really was able to build that margin to get there. Dallas was able to cover. It was a big game for them. Now they come home and they play this New Orleans team that's off to a very bad start. And I think Zion is out. So I think Zion's out for about a week. So they're playing New Orleans without their best player, too. Dallas has somewhat bigger games coming up next. The question is, Dallas at 2-5, are they going to overlook anybody? I don't know, but they're coming off a couple of big games, really, and actually returning over from a road trip because they went to Mexico City to play Detroit. Then they went to Houston. Now they're back home. Although Houston to Dallas, not a huge trip, although I think it's about, like a 5-hour drive, maybe, probably, because Texas is big. New Orleans, they at least broke their losing momentum. They finally got that monkey off their back. They got a win against Charlotte, which was the weakest opponent they faced all season. New Orleans has faced a gauntlet so far, so I don't think New Orleans is as bad as their record looks. Yes, it is a back-to-back for them, though, and they're playing a 3rd game in 4 days, 4th game in 6 days, actually, and 5th in 8, all in different cities, and it looks like a 6th in 10 days as well, so that's a pretty jammed schedule for New Orleans, so that's not great. They got the win in the injured player spot with Zion with the first game that he was out again, so they could maybe potentially take a step back in this game because he's not there anymore. They're on the back-to-back, which isn't that great either. Dallas is a 7.5-point favorite here. I don't really see any percentages yet here on this, but we don't. So hard to gauge what the market is actually doing in this game. I mean, my first look at this was that Dallas would be in a little bit of a hangover spot after the Houston game and maybe not take New Orleans without Zion totally seriously. But the spot for New Orleans is bad as well, so I don't know. I just don't love this game. So I don't know what I would want to do with this game. And the Mavs have injuries as well. Anthony Davis is still out, looks like, until their next game, and also Derek Lively. But the Pelicans are without Zion, so the Pelicans can't really take advantage of Dallas also being without their big men. So both teams are without their big men in that one. Yahoo, I just don't give a shit what Yahoo is showing, to be honest. I mean, whatever their numbers are, I don't think they're correct. I don't know if they're just looking at one book or what the fuck they're doing, but yeah, I don't think so. I disagree with that. I like the Knicks in that game. A lot of injuries in this game, true. Pelicans, Mavs, big men are out all over the place in that one. Miami at Denver. Miami off to a decent start, playing with their new up-tempo style. They did just pull off a win at the LA Clippers. Miami, they're on a difficult road trip here, man. Since Thursday, they've had to play at San Antonio, at the Lakers, at the Clippers, both of those games on a back-to-back. Now they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, and having to go into elevation. Coming off, I believe, what was an upset win. Yeah, the Clippers are a 7.5-point favorite. Don't like the spot for Miami here, man. And Miami, over the last few years, Miami has actually been pretty bad against Denver as well. So, of course, going back to, I believe, Miami lost to Denver in the finals a few years back, which I don't want to remember because that was the season that the Celtics wound up losing to Miami and getting knocked out of the playoffs. And I think Jason Tatum, what else is new, got hurt in that Game 7 as well. He's always getting hurt during their playoff runs. They did get a championship the one year that he didn't get hurt, so there was that. But Celtics, things can be a lot different with the Celtics, man. It seems to always be the case. Like, Len Bias dies. Reggie Lewis dies on the court because he's a cocaine addict. Both of them because they were cocaine addicts, I'm pretty sure. And then they lose Jason Tatum repeatedly to these severe injuries. Between those two things, Rick Pitino came in and traded away Chauncey Billups. I mean, Celtics could have had some more championships than they do, man. I mean, they do have a lot, so I'm not complaining. I think they have the most in NBA history, but a lot of that was because Bill Russell, that era, they won 11 in 13 years. So I was not alive back then. Miami, I mean, the Celtics, in my lifetime, the Celtics have been just kind of a loser team because I was born on the tail end of them being really good in the 80s, so I didn't really witness much of that. Like, I remember Larry Bird, just at the end of his career and telling me to fuck off when I tried to get his autograph and whatever, after he was coaching Indiana at that point. But anyway, Miami, they haven't been good against Denver recently, so Denver does have some recent history where they've been good against Miami. So I don't like how this sets up for Miami, really. Denver's coming off a win where they just won, didn't cover at home against Sacramento, whatever. I don't really think they're going to overlook Miami here because Miami is playing fairly well. So I'll lean to Denver in this one, laying the points. Miami looks like they're setting up as a public underdog as well, which is usually not what you want to look for. Well, you want to look for it and go against it. 62% of the tickets, only 51% of the cash on Miami. Denver is up from 9 to 9.5. I would lay it with Denver if I was going to play it. I like Denver in that one. The second of the ESPN games is a pretty good one with San Antonio at LA at the Lakers. It's going to be Wemba against Luka here. Pretty sure LeBron is still out, and we have no idea when LeBron is coming back, if ever. So just to keep that in mind. As far as the injuries, Fox, I don't think he's even played this year yet for San Antonio. They traded for him last year. He's definitely an offensive... He's a player that's going to improve San Antonio's offense, but he might actually weaken their defense. So the fact that he's out would probably help San Antonio's defense. But I don't think he's played this year, so it doesn't really matter. Austin Reeves is listed as game time decision for the Lakers. That's kind of the biggest thing going on with them. I expect him to play, though. I mean, it's a big game. If he can play, he'll play. San Antonio coming into this off their first loss, so I could actually see this going both ways. And I called it on the show. I got stubborn, and I said, I already leaned to Phoenix to cover that one, but I got stubborn, and I said, you know what? That is going to be San Antonio's first loss. And I was right. It was also the first game where Wemba was not the leading scorer for San Antonio. They played a bad game at Phoenix, man. They've had a couple of days to try to bounce back from that. You got to think they were looking ahead to this big game against the Lakers. So I do think they're in kind of a bounce back spot in one way because that game was really ugly against Phoenix. And I'll show you the box score in a minute. Phoenix just had absurd shooting percentages in that game, like massive outlier. So I would start looking towards San Antonio for those reasons. The only issue I really have is that going to hang them over into the next game? Because sometimes when you lose that first game, like I say, it hangs you over a little bit into the next game. So that would worry me slightly. LA off to a good start. Obviously, they're 6-2. LA, I mean, they faced somewhat of a weak schedule, I would say, so far. Their best opponents they faced are Golden State and Minnesota twice, although they did beat Minnesota twice. Coming into this game, they're playing a third game in 4 days, and they had kind of an odd trip to Portland in between the two, which seemed like a bad spot, but Portland had beaten them in LA not that long before that, so I think they actually did just show up with some focus there. They got the win in that one. Both teams are going to show up for this. LA is still playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, though, and they've been zigzagging all over the place, kind of, and they're actually playing a fifth game in 8 days, and actually a seventh game in 11 days. So the Lakers actually have the more packed schedule here. So the rest scenario actually sets up better for San Antonio. The Lakers are not that good defensively. They're pretty middle of the pack defensively. Luka, not really known for his defense, man. He's more of an offensive player. San Antonio, Wemba already is the favorite to be the defensive player of the year, and he's one of the favorites for MVP. San Antonio has the better defense, man. So if you buy into that aspect of this, San Antonio is the better defense getting points here. And the money is coming towards the under, maybe expecting this to be more of a defensive game, which I think is somewhat correlated to San Antonio. What else was I going to say about this? Oh, yeah, and the money seems like it's coming in on the Spurs. 58% of the tickets and 76% of the cash on the Spurs. So the money is kind of coming in on the Spurs there. I'll agree with it. I'll lean to the Spurs in this one. I think they have a better rest scenario here. I think maybe they will bounce back off of that game against Phoenix, which, I said I was going to show that. Looking at the box score in that game, Phoenix, I mean, this is ridiculous. Phoenix shot 58.2% from the field, and if that wasn't crazy enough, they shot 57.6% from three. That's just out of control. There's no possible way that you see a team repeat a performance like that, even though I know it's LA this time, but there's no way any team is going to do that, like on a night-to-night basis. That's just absurd. And San Antonio was really bad from three in the game, 24.4%. So some massive outliers in this one. And Phoenix lost the turnover battle, which usually that's not a good sign for San Antonio that they won the turnover battle and still lost. But again, the tale of this game was that Phoenix just couldn't miss, and that's just not going to happen again with LA here, especially against the San Antonio team that's known for being a better defensive team. So, yeah, I somewhat like San Antonio in that game. You like Denver. Miami keeps scoring because they keep pushing the pace, which I think Denver might actually try to maybe slow them down a bit. I think Denver is able to win that game and take care of business. You need them to cover a number in that one, though. But yeah, money also coming in on the under in that Spurs-Lakers game, by the way, for what it's worth, which I think is somewhat correlated to San Antonio. Like I said, Oklahoma City is at Portland. Interesting line in this game where it's lined pretty competitively. Like maybe this will be the streak buster, and maybe Oklahoma City will take their first loss. Oklahoma City has actually faced a pretty easy schedule so far this season. I mean, the best team they faced was Houston, I would say, in the first game of the season. Since then, their most difficult game was, I guess, the game they're coming off of, though, at the Clippers, but they were able to handle business, beat the Clippers in LA. That was yesterday. Now they have to go to Portland on a back-to-back Third game in 4 days. They don't really have a big game up next against Sacramento, the way Sacramento hasn't been playing well, but it's possible Oklahoma City gets caught here, man. Portland is actually a little bit under the radar. They've been pretty good at home, I believe. Portland, they're only 2-2 at home, but for me, like the last couple of years, Portland has been pretty decent at home. Portland is coming off facing some pretty difficult games, though, against Denver. Then they played the Lakers a couple days ago and lost against the Lakers. But they do have an extra day of rest. They're staying at home, and they actually had a couple of days of rest between the Denver and LA games. So they're the more rested team, staying at home. And Portland has actually faced a more difficult schedule. They faced LA twice, the Lakers. I mean, they also did face the Clippers. They faced Denver. They faced Minnesota, Golden State. Portland actually the more battle-tested team, so I lean to Portland in this game, man. The number is plummeted, though, from 7-4, so you got to think maybe there's some injury on the side of the Thunder here. Well, I know the Thunder have some injuries that aren't really like their main. It's not like SGA or anything like that, but for some reason this line is tanked to 4. 52% of the tickets, 94% of the cash on the Blazers. I do agree with the Blazers in this one. It is possible Oklahoma City takes their first loss here. Dort, I know, is a game-time decision. It is possible they rest Dort here, man. He's one of their better defenders, so that's, of course, that's going to have to downgrade Oklahoma City a little bit. He's not worth 3 points, though, but I think he might not play in this game because it is a back-to-back, I think, so they might just rest him here. Let me see. It is a back-to-back, right? I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, so it is a spot where maybe it looks like Oklahoma City might just start resting players, so maybe that's why the line is where it is. And then Jalen Williams has been out for a bit, so he's out as well. That also kind of hurts the Thunder a little bit. He's a key role player there, and he's not coming back for a bit. So I guess, yeah, there's that. And then guys not listed on the injury report might actually be getting rested in this game. So I think those are some of the reasons why the line is where it is. But I kind of lean to Portland in that one. And then Golden State at Sacramento. Golden State will be without Curry tonight. Curry is sick, but I also think the Warriors are on a back-to-back. So I think they're just saying, well, he's sick. It makes sense to just rest him in this game because he is sick. I think if the Warriors thought it was important, they'd try to get Curry out there and play. But I think they're going to just they're going to rest a little bit in this game, I would say. So Curry is definitely out for this one. Warriors are public because the public probably just doesn't even realize that. And they're like, oh, the Warriors are the better team than the Kings. Why are the Kings a 3-point favorite? Well, part of it is obviously because Curry's not playing. 62% of the tickets on the Warriors, 72% of the cash though on the Kings. I'm not really going to disagree with the Kings here. Warriors are on a back-to-back, although they only beat Phoenix yesterday, but they do have Denver up next. So I do think the Warriors, again, we know they're resting Curry here. Looks like a spot where maybe the Warriors are going to take a little bit of take their foot off the gas a little bit. And I think Horford is listed as day-to-day as well, so he might not play in this game as well. So Golden State to me, it looks like Golden State's just not really taking this game seriously. Sacramento's only 2-5. Sacramento's coming off that close game against Denver, though, and they're returning over from a road trip. They've been away for more than a week, so I don't like the spot for Sacramento either here. I mean, yeah, they're not going to overlook Golden State. They're going to try to get up and play, and this is kind of their closest rival, too, in Northern California. So they're not going to, I don't think, be distracted, really, and overlook Golden State, but it is still a difficult spot to return over from a road trip. They just played in Denver. They were able to beat Milwaukee over the weekend, which was a win for me on the show. They played fairly close against Denver, and what was a loss for me on the show. The spot doesn't set up well to me for Sacramento, man, so I can't get there with the Kings in this one. The line is a little bit high on the Kings as well, just because of the rest scenario that the Warriors are in, but that return home spot for the Kings, don't love it at all. Got to stay away from that. My one play is going to be on the Brooklyn Nets, the non-tanking Brooklyn Nets at +6.5. I would wait on this because I think you're going to be able to get 7 on this. The money looks like it's headed towards 7. So actually, let me see if it's 7 yet. If you can get 7 at some point today, like just by looking at it during the day, I'm gonna score this at 7 if you can. Let me see. I don't see it yet. I see 6.5s across the board right now, but I think it looks like 7s might show up here. We'll see. Pacers are very public, 85% of tickets, only 50% of the cash. When is a one-win team without their best player ever this public? It's crazy, dude. That's how much the public hates this Brooklyn Net team. And yeah, the Nets might be the worst team in the league, but I think this is a spot where the Pacers might get caught. The money is indicating on the Nets, of course, with only 50% of the cash evenly split. So the money is disagreeing with the very public 85% Pacer team here, 85% of the tickets on them. And I think this is a very bad spot for the Pacers. And they're still without most of the guys that have been hurt. I think they got Toppin back, but they're still without Nembhard and Mathurin in this game. Yeah, they're both missing this game. They're both listed as out until the 8th. A couple other guys might be out in this game as well. So obviously, and Halliburton obviously is out for basically the season. So you know you're not getting a fully intact Pacer team here. And look at what the Pacers did in their last couple of games. They beat Golden State, and then they played really hard against Milwaukee. That was still a big game for them. Milwaukee had that game circled, though. Milwaukee wanted to get the revenge against Indiana for knocking them out of the playoffs. But Indiana performed really well in that game as a home underdog. The game, I think, was close pretty much the whole way. Let me see. Though it looks like on the win probability, maybe not. Yeah, actually, maybe not. Milwaukee had built a decent lead at some points, but really their biggest lead was it was 11 in the fourth quarter. But Indiana not only didn't go away, but they cut it to one possession again in the last minute. So Indiana refused to go away in that game. Now they get this awful Brooklyn team. And Indiana up next, they got the Denver Nuggets, man, and then Golden State. So I think they're just going to not totally be focused for this game, man. It's a sandwich spot. Indiana pretty much knows they're not really doing anything this year with how injured they are. I think you're going to be seeing them get up. I mean, you want to talk about tanking. I mean, at what point does Indiana maybe start looking like they're in tank mode? I mean, it's not going to happen early in the season, man. In the NBA, these guys are still playing for pride, but I think Indiana put much more effort into that Milwaukee game, and they're going to be a little bit more focused for this upcoming road trip here. I think it's a decent spot for Brooklyn to actually maybe get their first win. Brooklyn's coming off a couple of horrible losses where they lost by double digits. I mean, they were against good teams, though, Philadelphia and Minnesota. The good thing for them is they have one day off and they get to just get away from home for a game. So I think they might actually show up more focused here on the road. Just get out of home. Just not listen to whatever's going on at home. Not listen to the distractions. At home, of course, the media is probably comparing them to the Knicks. Why does Brooklyn suck? Why are the Knicks the way better team? Although it's kind of always been that way, right? The Knicks have always been the team that is the New York team, and Brooklyn are kind of like the bastard child. Brooklyn used to be in New Jersey, of course, and then they moved to Brooklyn, and they were, I believe, an expansion team at some point. So they came along after the Knicks were already a thing. But yeah, Brooklyn, I mean, they've played competitively in some of their games this year. They lost by 11 at San Antonio. That's not that bad. They actually played Cleveland to within 7, Atlanta to within 5. So, I mean, they've been close in some of their games. This is just a horrible spot for Indiana, man. And Indiana's going to be one of the weakest opponents they've faced all season. I know they opened their season with just a horrible loss to Charlotte, which was the weakest team they've played all season. But since then, Brooklyn has actually faced all good teams since then. Every team they've faced since then is a potential playoff team. So they're actually stepping down in class to face Indiana here. So, yeah, take the points with Brooklyn. Wait around. See if you get the 7 on that. Portland plus 3.5. Yeah, I mean, I like Portland in the game. I think it's just a bad spot for Oklahoma City in that one. I think Oklahoma City, it might be one of those games where Oklahoma City just, I mean, you just don't, you can't have full focus on every single game, man. It might be one where Oklahoma City just doesn't have it in that one, but it's a little bit of a short line, although it also looks way too easy to lay the points with the Thunder as well. You got to look at the box score for the Thunder from last night. Which one of those games, on a back-to-back, which one of those games do you think the Thunder would pay more attention to, right? You have to say that it's the Clippers. They're going to put more weight into that Clipper game. Looking at the box score last night, you are right, though. They did rest guys, but Dort got hurt as well, so he was out of the game. They have 2 Jalen Williamses, so that was the other Jalen Williams, the worst one. But it actually looks like, I don't know, man, Oklahoma City, Yeah, I mean, their roster to me seems a little bit thinner than it usually is right now. But you're right. They did, I guess, somewhat rest their starters in this game, kind of because it was a blowout, though, I would say. Dort got hurt, but then SGA played 29 minutes. He usually plays in the 30s. Holmgren still played 30. You got 20s in the 20s out of Hartenstein. So, yeah, I mean, they're not, like, totally overworked after that game, but I still think they put more focus into that game. I do not agree that the Pacers should be laying more, obviously, because I'm taking the points. I actually think this line is too high. The Pacers, it's a bad spot for them, and they're not a good team, man. Like, what can I say? The Pacers, they're just a decimated team injury-wise. I mean, they're a one-win team. They're just not very good right now. All right. College football, I mean, and also the public perception. The public is all over the Pacers in that game for that exact reason. Like, they think that the line looks way too short, but I'm telling you right now, it's not. I think Brooklyn wins the game outright. Quiznotoad. That's right, Quiznos. Quiznos still exists in a few places, man. Quiznos, they kind of screwed with their business model. They were actually good, man. They had a decent product, toasted subs. It's not bad. It's a good idea. Their subs are pretty tasty and toasty. They should come back in more locations, man. They screwed up as far as how they ran the business. College football, Maction. Before I get out of here, an hour and a half long show. The first game up is just horrendous. Like, who the fuck is going to watch this game at 7 p.m. on ESPNU? Kent State at Ball State. You have these two teams are two of the worst teams in FBS, dude. Kent State is legitimately like one of the worst, like probably 5 teams in FBS. And yes, they have 2 wins, but one of them was against UMass, who, as we saw last night, is absolutely the worst team in FBS. They're going to go back down to FCS. UMass, this transition to FBS has been absolutely nightmarish for them. So that was one of Kent State's wins. And then their other win was last week against Bowling Green. Kent State did get that win with Darealis Clark getting a punt return or kick return touchdown or whatever to somehow scrape by FCS Merrimack. So Kent State's only real legitimate win was last week against Bowling Green. So I think they might be in a letdown spot after that. I mean, this Kent State team, they can't score. I mean, they're not a good team, and that was a ridiculous upset. They were a double-digit underdog, I'm pretty sure. Oh, no, wait, I'm wrong, actually. It was at Kent State, and Bowling Green was only a 7.5-point favorite. I thought they were an underdog in this game, man. But still, it could be a letdown spot. I mean, Bowling Green still outgained Kent State by close to 100 yards. There were no turnovers, so I don't even really know how Kent State won that game. Both these teams last played on Saturday the 25th, so there's no rest advantage one way or the other really here. Kent State, I think they're in a little bit of a letdown spot, and I think Kent State at 3-5, they're actually worse than their record looks, believe it or not. So I would start leaning towards Ball State in this one, although Ball State is also a pretty bad team, but they're coming off a loss, so they've had extra rest to kind of pick themselves up after that loss to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois is not great, but they at least run the ball decently and play decent defense. Ball State could bounce back from that. They get to host, a primetime game, so they'll probably be up for it. I mean, they don't really have a whole lot left to play for. I guess you could argue technically both teams are actually still potentially trying to become bowl eligible here, although I don't really see that happening for either team, but it's possible. We will see. I mean, it is actually pretty possible that Ball State wins their next 2 games, and then it starts looking more likely, but I just don't see them winning their last 2 road games. But still, that is a little bit of a motivational angle still for both teams here that's actually in play. Ball State's offense is also quite bad for the most part. They've had decent rushing performances, I guess, in some of their games, and their quarterback is kind of a dual threat quarterback, but they're still a pretty bad offense. I think they're still better than Kent State is, though, so I actually think this line is short. Like Ball State, they're up from a 2-point favorite to a 3-point favorite, but I think even though their records are the same, I think Ball State is better than Kent, so maybe the line is still indicating that because maybe Ball State, I mean, they obviously don't have a strong home field advantage, so maybe they do only get about 2 points for home field, so the odds makers are telling you they're the better team, but I think Kent State is bad enough that maybe Ball State should actually be laying a little bit more than that. 60% of the tickets and 67% of the cash on the Kent State side here, though, but I just don't agree with that. I think Ball State in a better spot to bounce back. Kent State in a bit of a letdown spot. I think Ball State is the better team still. Kent State, I mean, I think they're still pretty much as bad as they were last year when they were like a one-win team or whatever. So, Jeffrey, enjoy Chipotle, man. Thank you, sir. I'm not gonna have any plays on either of these college football games. I do lean to both home favorites in these games, though, just to let you know. But thanks for hanging out, man. I know it's a long show here. I try to get a lot of information packed into these. As far as the total in Kent State, Ball State, it actually went up to 47.5, but I actually kind of lean to the under just because both offenses stink. I know that the defenses are not that good either, so that might help the offenses. Maybe I'm totally wrong about it. 55% of tickets, 65% of the cash coming in on the over, so the money seems to be disagreeing with it a little bit, but yeah, I just think it's going to be an ugly game. So we'll see about that, but both teams, I mean, the argument for the over, you could see that the argument is that both teams are coming off playing better defenses. So Kent State played Bowling Green, Ball State played Northern Illinois. Those two teams are better defenses than these two teams that they're going to be facing each other this time. So they're both stepping down in class as far as the defenses are concerned. And then the other game, a little bit better, is basically offense versus defense, but I actually like the offense in this one. Northern Illinois against Toledo. Toledo is actually up from a 14 to a 14.5 point favorite, and the public is looking at this probably and thinking, well, how is a 4-4 Toledo team that much of a favorite really against anybody? Northern Illinois at 2-6. Well, Northern Illinois is not a very good team. They play decent defense. Like I said, they do run the football. Toledo is going to be a team that can move the ball through the air more. Toledo can throw the ball a lot better than Northern Illinois can. Northern Illinois really just runs the football, but that also means that if Northern Illinois falls behind, they don't really have the ability to come back. Even though their defense is okay, they just can't throw the football. Toledo is better than their 4-4 record looks, though. So, yeah, Northern Illinois is public, 60% of tickets, 61% of the cash now, but I think they're a public underdog. I would lay the points with Toledo, even though the total is very low at 42.5, and it looks like the money's coming in towards the under in that one. And Toledo, you got to think Toledo is correlated with the over in this game, though, just because if they're going to cover a big number like that as the better offensive team, excuse me, you probably got to expect some points being scored in the game. Northern Illinois, I think both of these teams last played on Saturday the 25th as well, so the rest is about the same. Northern Illinois finally won an FBS game, man, so maybe that gets the monkey off their back, because their only win was against Holy Cross, which is an FCS team, and they barely beat Holy Cross. I actually gave out Northern Illinois as a play way back on September 5th, and they actually covered against Maryland, so we got the win in that one. But Northern Illinois is bad, dude. I mean, the best team they faced all season was Mississippi State, and they pretty much got blown out in that game at Mississippi State. I know San Diego State's been playing well recently, and they actually had a 6-3 loss to them. But this Northern Illinois team, and they've been bad pretty much all season. They got the win against Ball State. Ball State also a pretty bad team, and Northern Illinois really did not do a whole lot offensively in that game. They still got the win, so you could argue that kind of gets that monkey off their back, gives them a little bit of momentum moving forward. I don't think they're going to overlook Toledo because Northern Illinois pretty much knows they're not going to be bowl eligible, I don't think, although who knows, because they get to play UMass and Kent State in their remaining schedule and Western Michigan at home. So if they could somehow pull off an upset at Toledo, they could actually become bowl eligible, which would be really insane if they were able to do that. I don't think it's going to happen, obviously. I think they're not going to beat Toledo, but that might actually focus Northern Illinois a little bit more. Toledo, the one bad thing about Toledo is they've been all over the place, well, sort of. They just had to fly out to the West Coast, and they actually caught Washington State in what I thought was a bad spot for Washington State, and Toledo still didn't play well and did not win the game, obviously. They lost 28-6. Although I think Toledo actually played better than the score looked. They were pretty close in yardage. Washington State only out-yarded them by like 20-something yards. So it was actually close. Toledo actually won the turnover battle too. So I don't know how Toledo lost that game 28-7. But that was a big game for Toledo, though, because they got to play one of the bigger conference teams, and they only did that one other time this year and actually played pretty well against Kentucky. So, I mean, I can see a couple of arguments. I can see arguments both ways in this game. You could argue that it's a bad travel spot because Toledo has to fly back from the Pacific Coast, but at least they have more time off here because they last played on Saturday the 25th, so that can help with their travel here. They're still going to show up because they're still trying to become bowl eligible at the very least, although I think they definitely had aspirations of winning the MAC. Although as a 2-loss MAC team, I think that is still possible, even though I think a couple of the MAC teams are undefeated right now. They're not technically out of it yet. They get to host this game on ESPN2, although they're pretty much used to doing that at this point. But it'll be their first midweek game that they get to host, so they should be focused for it, I think. And I still think they're better than their record looks, man. I mean, they had some weird upset losses to Western Michigan. I don't know how that happened. And to Bowling Green in games where I think they were favored in both games on the road. So Toledo, yeah, they were a double-digit favorite in both of those losses. So Toledo, they probably should be 6-2 right now. Like, I just don't know how they lost both those games. They actually could easily be a 1-loss team. Actually, the way that they caught Washington State, they were actually a road favorite at Washington State as well. So 3 of Toledo's 4 losses, they were actually favored in those games. So Toledo is better than their record looks. So that's why I kind of lean towards Toledo here. But you could argue the travel spot's a little bit bad. So, yeah, I mean, some conflicting factors there. I don't want to play it at all. But that's going to do it, man. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. My plays today one more time. We're laying an ass load of points here. By the way, college basketball already started. Middle Tennessee had some weird early game against some Division II team. Don't even know if it's televised, but yeah. College basketball, we're jumping into the fray. We're going to lay the points with Georgia. I found it at 31.5. Hopefully you can find a decent number on it. UC Davis -3 is the other one. And then Brooklyn Nets plus the points. I said wait on this one to see if you can get the 7 because the way the public's pouring in on Indiana, I think it actually might hit the 7. Seeing 6.5 with juice at some spots right now. So I would wait because if you get 6.5 or 6, it's not really that big of a deal. So, hopefully we can get a 7 on that. That's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for hanging out again. Let's keep winning. Let's kick off college basketball right because the way I finished in college basketball, it was horrendous. I was really bad in March. I apologize. Last 2 years, I was really good in college basketball, especially during the conference play section of the regular season. I tend to do really well. I tend to pick some good spots in the early season as well. So I don't know what happened during like tournament time, whatever. I was really bad, man, in March, so I apologize for that. But let's get it done. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Leave me some good comments. Let's boost this channel. Get it going. Bettor Off Dead. Still might change the name. Try to get more eyes on it, even though I like the neon green here. What else did I want to say? I don't even remember, man. Oh, I'm on the audio. Give me a good review on audio app on Spotify. That helps me out as well. And listening over there helps me out as well. Covered in Uke on YouTube is my Uke channel. And then patreon.com/learntotode. You can support me there and you get some bonus Uke content. You can request at the highest level through DMing me, which Charles has done a couple of times. He's requested another one. I got to look into it. Charles, if you're out there, I'm looking into it. It might take me a while because I don't really know the song. So when I don't really know the song at all, I'm going to have to listen to it a bunch of times, and it'll take me a lot longer to do it. I have to look at the chords and see if it is doable, too, so we'll see. And then, yeah, Patreon, you also get a Spotify feed with the Uke stuff. So that's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys. Let's have another winning day here. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. I'm happy about college basketball being back, man. It's exciting. Having some plays in college basketball also starts getting exciting. So let's get it done. Peace for now, and I'll be back tomorrow, as usual, and see if my Thursday night NFL dominance can return. I actually don't even remember who's playing in that game, so we'll see. But peace for now.